Hi, Tabian. Hi, Matthias.
Hey, I'm on a phone. I'm not on the laptop at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. But maybe if just someone is curious about something that is really tricky to do, you may be able to help. But
I have
yeah.
complete confidence in you.
Yeah. Well, I've already really, I think, touched the surface of the library, but I don't think that any of the really low-level things are exposed too much yet. I was looking at the shaders. Those seem to be very rudimentary so far, only for the samplers and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's in there is already pretty much all the basic primitives and asset loading, which works for pretty much any file format that you might really think of. And yeah, it's like, except for a few crashes, it's really working quite well. And yeah, it also has physics built in, and what's also nice is that you can use the game editor or like the game studio from Stride to create scenes and then load them inside, even though it's a bit buggy at times. And like what I particularly like is that there's this integration with Skia that you can really easily render into textures. So for instance, this screen texture is rendered with Skia real time, which then I have just here a bunch of Skia nodes, and that way you can really super easily create 2D textures of any vectors, which is quite nice. So like mix and matching this, and hopefully there will be some way to also have inputs into the Skia rendering, so you could have like VR interaction with some UIs or so on. But I think that may come in the future.
Yes, that should already work. I mean, you can already use Elementor. So connect a Skia renderer, a rendering node to scene window, for instance, and then you can use Elementor UI widgets, and the events should come through. I think there's currently one event that's missing, which is text input for the text field. But the sliders and buttons and everything from Elementor should just work, which is absolutely amazing.
Oh,
So big shout out to Elias if he's here.
Yeah, I was.
He sat down a few days and took care of that, which is really cool.
Yeah, I was noticing that he was the one responsible for the commits on the Skia side. I was already giving him some shout outs, but yeah, it's really quite amazing, and it's like so like frictionless. You mean like connecting the Skia renderer as a render entity to the scene?
Yes, so it has to be in a scene graph that is connected to a window, and then the window will send the events into the scene graph, and the Skia renderer is able to catch the events and process them further in the Skia nodes.
But interacting with textures like this, that's not something that is possible at the moment, right?
In the texture itself, I think if you render to texture, you will lose the events from the window. So you have to connect the Skia renderer directly to a scene that's connected to a window. But in theory, you can inject the events as well.
Yeah, so if there would be just some...
But for that, you need to patch a little bit.
So even without editing the C# code, this should be possible with patching?
Yes.
Okay, that's very cool.
There is a node, it's called with with window event source or something.
Okay.
And this one is able to pass the window events to the skier world.
That's very cool. Because I was thinking really, if you have some just 3D scene, or you're in VR, and then you can have just sort of some arcade machine or like computer, and then interact with the like UI on the screen that's done in Skia.
Yeah.
That would be.
This will also be much more convenient in a few days. Sebastian is currently working on all the improvements and conventions of the new input system. So it should be more easy and compatible with Skia. So that you also know if you're now in a top left space, if you're in a normalized centered space, or things like that, or in pixel space, or in world coordinates, or stuff like that.
Very cool. Are you interested in this error here?
What happened?
File not found exception, could not load file or assembly Zenko core. Weird. But actually, why is it Zenko core isn't Stride already?
Oh, I think Elementa, yes. I think Elementa is currently targeting 2021. I think, yeah, okay, it's not that easy. You need the repository. The nugget hasn't been released yet by the tool.
Yeah, but in principle, it's like for overlay UIs, it's just gonna be really simple. Just put it in and it works. Yeah, that's quite amazing.
It is very cool.
Are there any specifics anyone is interested in? Like, what would you like to do with this 3D library in Gamma? Or to be honest, are there like ways to display point clouds at the moment, or just to instance like a lot of spheres or quads?
You mean instancing?
No, I mean if I have like a point cloud, and what's the most efficient way to display that?
I think it would be to load them into a GPU buffer and then use the data in the point cloud to generate sprites, probably, something like that. But we don't have a convenient pipeline for that yet.
Okay.
But that would make a good example patch.
Yeah.
So if nice file that you could share with us, we could make an example patch and add it to the help browser.
Yeah, I think I can ask around this, like, or like I do have some really nice scans of like the Prague like main train station, but I think those are kind of confidential. So not really going into a help patch, but I think like Andre, for instance, or like Boris should have some nice point clouds maybe to use.
Yeah, I think for point clouds it's quite specific how you want to display them. So that might be very like custom for, so everyone has probably different needs how they want to render them.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of a very requested feature. Just go in and have some point clouds, even just from Kinect.
Just display all points.
Yeah.
Oh, that should be easy. There's this help patch called dynamic mesh or so, and this shows how you can just fill a vertex buffer, upload it to the GPU, and then if you switch to rendering mode, I think point list, that should then display just a point cloud as a bunch of points.
Okay, I will open that.
So if you just want to see the points, that should be quite easy. It's called rendering dynamic mesh. Yeah.
Oh,
so there you see.
Nice. It's just random spread, or what is this?
That's a random spread. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you switch to topology to point list, Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay.
And then you just, instead of the random spread, you enter your point cloud, you should see it.
Nice. And but this is like, you can't really give them size, or can you? If it's just
No, this is
like,
a
this is low level points. Yeah.
Yeah. That would just be the quickest way to to see something.
Yeah. Okay, but
Now, to generate sprites, you need a geometry shader, and yeah, that's a bit more complicated.
Okay. And is this something you could theoretically do with the game studio, like prepare a shader there, like a custom shader, and then bring it into Gamma and feed the data?
Yes. There will be probably a few ways to include shaders. Probably much more simple that you just have a file on disk, or like a special folder where you place shader files. That's also something we currently work on.
Okay, in the, like, what is it, XKSL format?
Yes, SDSL.
Yeah. Oh, it's renamed because of Stride to SDSL?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I didn't actually manage to have this one, like I added this shader in the project according to the documentation, but it didn't really show up in the editor. But there's probably just something.
You have to switch to code. There's assets and code, and if you switch to the code section, it should be there.
Okay, my shader.
Yeah.
But now when I have a material, let's say, I don't know, just a material, and I would assume it would show up in
diffuse. Yeah.
Oh, and here you put shader. Okay.
No, first you have to switch the mode from color to shader. So you have to go back. There's a little arrow. Yeah, the last here. Then you check shader. Okay, now you switch to color.
Yeah.
And
so
there you
shader, now I can
track your shader.
Oh no. Material.
Or you just could type my shader maybe.
Excuse my dictionary. It's a strange workflow.
Now there should be a drop down.
Yeah. So.
Is the shader in a folder called effects?
No.
Oh, that has to be the case. That's a convention.
Yeah. So I just think that the documentation page needs to be updated a bit, because it really
I think
just
it previously was shaders. Now it's called effects.
It was actually in the documentation. It's just added to the project, and that's it. So, okay, so I need a new folder, and yeah. In the assets or just in the project?
No, next to assets, not inside assets.
Okay. And it's called effects.
Effects, yeah.
Okay, my shader. Okay. It's not showing up. Okay, and code. No. I mean, I didn't apply this material to anything. But, say prefab.
Maybe also you have to build the project once, so that everything's up to date.
Yeah, I guess it's just about getting used to the workflow here. I mean, if you're coming from Unity, for instance, then everything just kind of happens, and the only build is when you start a scene, and I mean when you want to export it. But here, actually, you're always
I mean, you can't expect to pick up. I mean, the game studio is quite a complex software. You can't expect to pick it up like in an hour or so. So you should get a bit into it and understand the workflows.
Yeah. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna get this running. Like material, okay. Yeah, it's probably stuck like that. Okay, anyways, we can just go through the rest of this thing. So this dynamic mesh is basically just creating a mesh from any sort of input data, and you can also feed normals and things, or it's just
You see there's a little node called pos4.
Yeah.
That is like the layout of the vertices.
Okay.
So in that case, it's only a position and a color.
Right. So you can add normals if you change the to here, and then have like vector of position, vector of normals, and texture coordinates.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, but the shader has to know that. So you see this W color. That's a shader, and this shader works together with this vertex layout. So the shader and the mesh have to match, of course.
Okay.
So yeah, that's normal. If you work with a graphics pipeline, you have to take care of things like that.
Yeah, so, then for this to match, that would be some position or no? Is there some shader that would match this kind of definition?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
No, we only ship a few utility shaders that we need for axis and grid in curve meter, but we haven't built any shader library yet.
And the W color is a native node or a VL node?
That's a shader. You right click it, you should open the
yeah, I'm having like another cannot find the file specified start with shell execute. Somehow I can't open this effect.
Shader.
But anyway,
it should open the shader file usually, but maybe it doesn't work when it's compiled.
Yeah, it doesn't work now, so that's a bug. But so this is just a shader file, and that's imported inside. Okay. Moving on, maybe. So procedural materials is the same, but for textures, pretty much.
No, that's very different. That is the other shader is patched actually.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So these nodes that you see there, they are basically something like visual shader graph or effect graph in Unity.
Nice.
So there you write your shader with nodes.
Right. So okay, so experimentally you already have a bunch of field trip nodes. So you could do ray marching already if you rendered straight onto it's like the main entity, and you just put in like you combine the SDFs with the ray march, or how would that work?
Yes, there isn't an example patch yet. There was one in VL.Stride, our previous experimental library, but we haven't ported that yet. But Kyle will work on that a little bit before Node.
But the nodes are pretty much there already, and in theory it should work.
Yeah, you can do it, but currently I don't know how to set it up properly.
Okay, yeah.
So,
but
in theory, yeah, you can already do ray marching and even combine the ray marching with normal 3D meshes, and they work together with depth buffer and everything.
It's very nice. And with these definitions, what you're putting is like just definitions of functions. It's actually not computing them, right? It just kind of builds up the tree that then gets fed into the material, and that actually creates the shader from it.
Yes. So you generate a function that generates, for example, the metalness value, or in this case, the emissive strength. And yeah, that's a noise function from Kyle. And yeah, this noise function computes the emissive value of the material.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, and if I change it, it takes some time to recompile. It's recompiling the shader in Zenko.
Yes, it has to completely compile the whole material.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like changing shader code.
Yeah, makes sense. And do you also expect to have some sort of hybrid approach where you can actually have a shader code and you just change it and then you have a node? That's actually something like the W color, just something that's brought in
all
from
nodes
file.
that you see here are snippets of shader code.
Okay, so if I went somewhere now in like the Stride library, and there should be files that if I edited, they would also recompile the shader.
Yes, they're on GitHub, yeah.
Oh. Okay, the noise is actually another patch, but inside of the patch.
Yeah, there you see the shader name. To the left, yeah, that's the name of the shader.
Okay. Okay, so but it's just a string, so that's a reference, and then it's loaded somewhere from some library.
Yeah, exactly. Stride has a database of assets and shaders, and it's just a reference to some content that we compile and ship.
Okay, so that's something that's included in the my game. That's inside of, that's kind of the thing that's the VL.Stride is referencing, this kind of base project.
Yeah, you can see it like that. It's just something that's in the package or in the nugget that we ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you check the nugget, you should see the files somewhere there. VL.Stride runtime.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I can see there's assets and all the. Okay, yeah. And here's all the shaders that are then available.
Exactly.
There. And if I edit something here, then it will be just about like adding a different name in the string reference here, and it should load, or is there something more involved in adding them to the database?
Through a compilation step.
Okay.
But you can edit the shader and it will update in real time. But like entering or announce the shader to the system is one step you have to do.
Okay, so that's now done during compilation, but you also expect to have just like file loading of shaders, I assume.
Yeah, in the same way as you can load textures or models at runtime.
Nice.
So for game engines, assets are usually something that's static. You do it in design mode, and when you compile the game, all your assets get compiled into a data package, and that gets shipped to your users. And we've worked on a system that allows you to do that in real time without compiling.
Yeah, it's. I think it's very important for the vvvv workflow.
Yeah, but you also have to think about export later. So this is the kind of a tricky thing, that when you press export, that it also works in that case.
And is there a reason why it wouldn't work if you just included the original files, if you included the OBJ and just referenced that, and then, I mean, I guess the load time would be a bit longer, but in theory it should work, right? It would just
that works, yeah. If you get the file path right and everything, yeah.
Yeah, okay, maybe there's a crash, or it's just, yeah.
Maybe too many windows were open.
No, it happened after loading the asset. But it's an asset that was already loaded somewhere else, so maybe that's an issue. Also, sometimes when you press the reload on the asset, it does crash. And when
if you have a test file, that would be cool. Could be that 3D model maybe has something, or
maybe it was happening with multiple models, but from the same source. It was all Blender exports, so maybe there's something weird about them. But when they load for the first time, it's fine. And when there's a silent crash like this, is there like some log that can be sent to you, or just like prepare a test batch and send it over? What's the best approach?
yeah, test batch and test file would be great.
Yeah.
There should be a console somewhere, but I think in release builds it doesn't show up.
Yeah, well, there is a console of there's the log, right? But they will crash along with vvvv.
Yeah, probably, but maybe it logs something there. Yeah, but let's not debug now.
Yeah. No, just wondering. And there's also the Windows event viewer that may show something, but it's probably best for you to just have the problem at hand, and then you can dig into it.
No, if you have a test file, we can just open it with our
yeah
development system, then see what's going on.
Okay, so let's maybe look at physics. That's like something that is really simple, I think, compared to, for instance, using bullet physics in beta, where it was kind of two separate things, the rendering and the physics. And now, since it's an entity component system, then the physics are just something that is added onto the entities.
Yep.
And I do have this is something that happened once already. I think I just had to restart Gamma, but I don't. Service iContent Manager not found.
Haven't seen that before.
Yeah, it's like it's really something that the one patch may work, and then another time it just won't, and then
the same patch.
Yeah, the same patch. It happened to me in a different patch. The same error on just some node. Yeah, but I think it should be fine after restart. You can see. Maybe I will just start more instances of Gamma to have them ready. Yeah, and from the Game Studio projects, once it's working fully, then you can really reference every piece of the C of the project, right? You can
everything
reference,
you see down there in the browser.
Yeah, you can reference the whole scene. You can reference the prefabs, which is very powerful, including all animations and sounds, etc. Now there's just some issues with the prefabs, but I guess that's gonna be fixed soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was quite obvious that we have some system to generate warnings when you connect two parents to one entity. And of course, Stride has no idea of this system, and the system has a bug that it just allow entities that don't have this manager should just be okay. Because, of course, we cannot force everyone to equip their entities with this manager system.
And there, when do you put multiple parents on an entity? When it's like when you use an extra scene and then it's in two scenes?
Every entity has a link, and you can connect the link like 3 times to different scenes or something like that.
Right. If you use it in multiple places, then it has multiple parents, right?
Yeah. Now you get a warning explaining that you did something wrong, and this system is a bit too strict, apparently.
So it doesn't allow even one.
No, it doesn't connect to entities that don't have this manager, which are serialized entities from Stride.
Okay. Yeah, now it works, the same patch, but it's maybe something that, that there was another project open than this. I mean, you're really pushing Stride in like a very new direction with this like multi-window and multi-project setups that are possible in Gamma. So of course it's not going to be completely smooth sailing.
No, it's the first version. So, but it's good to see those errors, because the most obvious ones, of course, we have to catch them before Node. So the ones that everyone is experiencing, that's, of course, the ones we have to concentrate on. Yeah, I mean, physics is a good example of the entity component system, because the sphere is exactly the same sphere as you would use for just rendering a sphere into the scene. And the only thing you do is like attach a physics component, and then it gets this new behavior.
So this is where you define the collider shape. So you also have like pill colliders and just convex colliders, or
it's better to open the physics category and see what's in there. So yeah, there you have the collider shapes.
Okay, yeah. Capsule, cone, cylinder, hot field, sphere, static plane collider. Is there there should also be just a collider from a mesh, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
supported in Stride, but it's not included yet.
No, because this is the process. This is something where you have to do a few steps in order to generate
the collider.
The collider shape from a mesh, and that is way more easy to do that in Game Studio.
Yeah, here is basically like this, right? Then physics, and can put a convex hull.
Yeah.
And then you add some model as the source, and then it runs it through the process of generating the convex hull and plops out the result.
So there's good videos also on that on YouTube. So the Stride channel on YouTube has quite nice videos about physics and how to generate those collider shapes.
Okay, and once you have this hull, then is there a way to import it into Gamma by loading the scene and then using?
No, the collider shape is its own asset, so you should be able to load it with the asset node. But I haven't tried that. So yeah. So all the physics is currently experimental, because we don't have the time to go deeper into it before Node. So currently it's just that state. You can do basic physics, and with basic shapes, but all the more complex things will be a topic after Node, because it's just time-wise we cannot focus on that at the moment.
Understood. Yeah, I think that was a crash of trying to load the project now. Is there some?
Maybe delete this material. There's a material that is currently having an error.
Yeah. That's likely.
And I think as long as this error isn't resolved.
Sphere material. Okay. Save. So after every save, you should build the project for it to load correctly, and
No. You just have to save the project, and it will update.
See. Yes. Are there any projects that you already know about that are being done with Stride? You know, on the like that are in works now. I mean, there was Ocean of Air, obviously, but since then the whole library went through a lot. So
yes, there are at least 3 I know of. But I think shouldn't tell you about them because they're not public yet.
Okay.
But there are already 3 projects, I think, in the works. Or even 4 or 5, I think. There's a few companies already starting projects.
Some interactive things or more just visuals and.
Yeah, I think 2 are in a museum.
Okay.
One is more kind of a branding thing on like devices, and then there's another one which I don't know what it is. And 1 or 2 VR projects.
But the VR doesn't work yet, right? Or it's already fixed?
Oh, it's just in planning phase. It's not yet.
Yeah. And on the devices, it's something that expects to then be exported to mobile, or it's just like on some mobile Windows devices?
Oh, I don't know the details of that.
Because for that to use Gamma, it like also needs Gamma to actually support all the other platforms, which is not like probably coming any time in like, I don't know, next half year at least.
No, not before Node.
Yeah. I have the project loaded here now, but I don't see any asset collider. So I guess that's not something that is added yet, right?
No, you can just use the asset node, which is generic.
Okay. So
if you have a look, for example, into the texture node or something, it's just the same. It's just an asset node. That's basically all you need.
Right. So you just this load asset.
Oh no, that was the wrong node. It's called texture asset. No, asset texture, sorry.
Oh. What is the difference? There's like a texture asset loads the asset and asset texture creates it? Or texture asset creates the asset and asset texture loads it? What is it? Yeah. No.
Oh, that's just an old node. Sorry. Yeah.
Right.
It's just shouldn't be there.
Seems to do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you see look inside there, you see it's just one node, and this one is generic. So depending on the output type, it loads an asset from the game content.
Okay. Nice. How did you discuss about reversing the name?
The general convention with those high-level nodes is that the last word is the main output, and the first word is the main input.
Makes sense. Hi, Sat.
Hello.
Hi. Oh, Sable knows more about loading projects than me.
We're just exploring at the no. Okay. We're just exploring the workflow of generating physics colliders in the game studio and then loading them inside of Gamma and using them there. So right, but I would have to kind of bring up the whole physics setup for that, I assume. But maybe let's just see if it does load the shape.
Yeah, you could try.
Yeah. So what kind of type should I expect from this? Just
maybe try a static collider component, and then the input connected to the input. No, the node static collider component.
Okay.
Let's see what kind of input it has.
Yeah, I have, for some reason I'm having a very slow everything now. I don't need this. Okay, so static node, static collider component.
And the first input is
yeah, collider shapes.
No, that's a spread, so you need a from value in between.
Right. Yeah, so this is for compound collider shapes. You then put them on one entity and you can have physics from multiple shapes.
Yeah, because usually in games you approximate a mesh maybe with 3 spheres and two cylinders. Yeah. And then you have like a few collider shapes that make up the collider.
Yeah, but you just don't need to make more components. It's already in this one. You just give it a list of the shapes, and yes, I assume transformations somewhere. Okay, so yeah, I guess this way it would work.
So did the asset say loaded or this or something? The asset has 2 outputs. Oh, it doesn't exist. So maybe the type is different. What does it expect?
I inline collider shape description.
Okay, maybe the asset has a different type. Okay.
Maybe.
Never tried that.
Yeah. It is
maybe the collider shape is directly just collider shape.
Yeah.
Type collider shape, yes. Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Nathan. Hey, Nathan.
I mean, collider shape as a type.
Yes.
See.
But we haven't imported it yet, or maybe try to. I think it's not in the list.
It's probably. Okay. Yeah, it's collider shape. No, okay. No, I just wrote it by hand and pressed enter, so it's not. Okay, but in principle, this should be possible.
Yes, you can build your convex hulls. There's also like more smart composition of models that will just approximate complex models with simpler shapes. That is quite cool.
Yeah, it's much
Called
much more efficient than using some
CHD or something like that.
Would it be this physics intro?
No, there's a few.
Okay, static colliders, and goes further even.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay, so this is for the game studio part. But that's probably something you will not be adding in the asset pipeline in Gamma to just load in a file, create a convex hull.
No, of course, if we have time, we can like replicate the whole process of generating collider shape and everything. Should be possible.
Nice. I saw in here there was actually some particles demo. Is that possible? In the Stride here demos.
Oh no, that's an old folder.
Yeah. So this is not going to work. GPU particle system.
No, only if we fix all the errors. I mean, the shaders still work, of course, but
okay.
The nodes don't exist anymore.
Coming soon.
So this was GPU based particle simulation.
Okay.
Yeah. Built with the like shader nodes.
Yeah, that are just shaders. And for each shader you add to the project, you get a node. And yeah, in the simulation, yes, exactly, there is some shaders.
Okay, but that doesn't exist maybe anymore.
It should be somewhere in the effects. I think the file is still there.
Okay. Can we look further? Yeah, so all the inputs are already in some easy to see, like right. You have the split mouse device. So to get touch, it's the pointer device. And does this include also gestures, or no?
No, this is currently reworked. We only focus on the basics yet, and the gestures, yeah, we'll probably do at some later point.
Yeah, but
if you want, you can just make a pull request and add them.
Maybe I mean I was already like I guess I'm kind of invested in the touch. I think there's some C# code I was putting to make it even work. The first place in Zenko. Hi, Offer.
Hi.
But
Hi,
that's a massive hall.
Yes, it's my other house. I'll be quiet.
Yeah. Can I just ask you to? Yeah, perfect. It's a lot of noise. But the gestures, I think you can get pretty much for free in Zenko or like in Stride, because it actually processes them itself as well. So I can maybe look at that if I have time.
Yeah, sure, that should be quite easy, the gesture API. But first we have to figure out how we handle the basic input devices. And if that is fixed, so the foundation is there, then we know how to design the nodes correctly in order to have them conveniently work together with the pointer or touch output from the window.
Yeah, just like kind of just really it's about the design of the node set. I mean, everything works on the low level from Stride, and you're just figuring out how to like expose it into the system and to make it really useful.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you know your way around C# and you know that you need the gestures, it shouldn't be too hard to hack it yourself if you just really need it like tomorrow.
No, it's like.
But we will invest some time to design the nodes nicely. That is quite easy.
Okay. And is there something? Is this something that possibly opens up multi-touch in Skia?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, Nathan is here. Nathan knows how the events are handled in Elementor. And Stable is here, who already did a multi-touch project, I think. Stable, Dominic was asking about projects that are currently made with Stride. Are you able to share something about them? Or is it still secret?
No, it's not secret, but it's on my different computer. I can maybe try to join there also.
That would be nice. And if it doesn't work, I mean, it would be also nice to just share what it is and
what you're building or something. Yeah.
I can share it in a minute. Give me some time to rejoin and open the project.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, and like so now that we actually get a multi-touch input and you can have Skia rendered through Stride, it should also be possible to just feed multi-touch events into Skia if it supported that.
Yes.
I assume. Because the current like Skia renderer is Windows Forms based, and the touch events were never wrapped there. But
yes, I think this part has to be implemented in Skia. I think it's not even there.
Yeah,
that's the main problem.
Yeah, but now, I mean, the input itself is now here, so it could be added, I guess. But one would have to think about how to actually approach it. If it's again just notifications that then you handle somehow, and the ID handling and all that.
Yeah, we have touch events as well, but Skia doesn't implement this pipeline or this event type.
Yeah.
What you could do, of course, is use the touch events directly and then patch some logic that modifies Skia.
Yeah, that's quite easy to do if you just have like a flat scene. But if you want to work like what is really nice about Skia is how it handles the layers and how it handles like the transformations of the input events through the layers. So this is something that you would lose. You would just get this like flat, flat like positions of.
Sebastian is also currently looking into a system like that for Stride. So we are not yet sold on the idea of transforming events, because in 3D it doesn't make that much sense as in 2D. Because what does it mean to transform like a screen space event?
Yeah.
It's not really clear into 3D. So then rays come into play, and how do you want to transform the rays? So yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit different approach there, but
we'll also have different 2D spaces, at least top left pixel space, and probably a centered normalized space, so that it matches the spaces in Skia.
And there the input transformations could possibly make sense if you were to make UI with quads and
for
sprites.
2D it's relatively clear how it works.
Does it maybe make sense to get rid of the skier renderers at some point?
How do you mean?
Yeah, I didn't get my hands too wet on the skier rendering in Stride yet, but it seems to work pretty good. And so why then have and maintain two types of renderers if we can have a Stride render window by default?
Maybe
So
you
maybe,
maybe you don't always need 3D.
Yeah, I think the argument against like only having Stride is that then you're always bringing the whole Stride library like with the project if you export it into executable.
for export.
Yeah, for export, but probably it's also taking up more memory. Maybe like for instance, it's in like exported schema takes up like 100 megabytes of memory, which I find quite amazing.
Which is not so much, right?
Yeah, it's just 100 megs, and it's not really optimized. So that seems to be quite efficient, like compared to if I did it in, you know, like Chrome, and render it would probably be at least half a gig or something. But yeah, so it's mainly that it may be slightly lower performance and probably higher RAM usage, but if it is really hard to maintain the Windows Forms based render, then it maybe makes sense to drop it. But that's, I think, up to the devs, I think, and even if there needs to be anything done with it anymore. Okay, so I've opened this custom texture sampling patch, and when I was opening it, like some earlier time, I was thinking of maybe making the texture wavy with some sine wave. Is that something that's possible? Like to add this function there, so it would sample with some distortion, or it's.
I don't know whether I've already imported. If you go into the shader FX category.
Yeah, I didn't see much there.
Yes, we only imported whatever we needed when we did it.
Yeah.
So there isn't an automatic factory for that. So this needs to be programmed, and we probably don't have time for that before Node.
Okay.
So currently we just add operations as we need them. If you go into operations in.
Yeah, I think operations. Yeah. Yeah, there's.
So there's no sign or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So these are basically exposed shader functions that then gets in the shader. It wouldn't make sense to have like some way to like have like a delegate and then have it transform to actual shader code, because it's two different worlds, like the .NET code and the shader code.
I mean, there's many ways how you combine these things. I mean, you could also imagine just to write a shader snippet here, just a string.
Yeah, that would be
write one function,
really...
and then the function gets compiled into a bigger shader. There are many ways. So this is very experimental. We need to, just work on that a bit more and see what's convenient, what's the best way.
Yeah, like ideally some generic approach that could scale with, because you have a lot of functions. Do you want to expose all of them separately as nodes, or have something where you can, as you said, enter snippets? Or like what's the best approach there?
I think it's better to make more high-level building blocks. What Kyle did with Field Trip. and the other library he made.
Yeah.
So he found nice modules that do interesting things. Internally, they have complex shader code, but on the outside, they are very nice to combine. I think that is the best way to go forward here. I mean, it's no problem to like write a factory and import all 1000 operations for HLSL here.
Mm-hmm.
But then the question is, if you write an algorithm with nodes, it gets quite big, and
Yeah.
the patch might get complex if you have loads of like plus, minus, lerp, and stuff like that. So it could be okay to add a plus and a multiply somewhere if you combine bigger blocks. But I think it's better to have things like this ray marcher, or things like noise generators, and things like more high-level blocks that are fun to combine instead of like patching a whole algorithm. It's cool to have those nodes, but I think the workflow to patch a big algorithm with nodes is not really what you want.
It's super tedious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this higher level approach makes sense for it, but then it would be also nice to just have the option to put in little pieces of textual code
Mhm.
when
Yeah,
you need
definitely.
to. And actually, I came across this. I don't know if I can. This. I don't know if you know this, like the book of shaders. And
No.
there's this really nice editor that, I mean, it looks just like standard text editor, but it does have, like, the moment you press on a number, you do get this widget that allows you to really quickly experiment with the shader,
Mm-hmm.
which is quite nice. And I mean, if there was like this hybrid environment in vvv where even if you have text, you still have sort of this IO box approach to numbers, that would be very, very nice. But it even understands.
Yeah, but it recompiles the shader. It's good
So
with the shader with 10 lines you see here.
yeah,
But you see, if you recompile a material, it gets into like 3 to 4 seconds. And there you want dynamic inputs, not like actually changing the text.
So it's not immediate. And so you would just have this put to a pin, and they would just.
So it works quick when you have very little shaders, but
yeah,
on big shaders that would take too long.
Yeah, but just for like UI, this is also quite cool because it also understands the context of the numbers. So when you have a color, it actually presents you with a color picker, and when there's if I just had like I also saw, you can also have like a XYZ if it's if it's just a position.
If it's a normal or something like that.
Yeah. Then you get this kind of editor.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, just an interesting little tool. Yeah, so this for high level. So also things like instance noodles probably make sense here.
Yes, that's what I meant. Field trip and instance noodles. I think it's a very nice level to modularize shader functions.
Yeah, it's quite powerful. Really like to. I know when I was working with it, like pretty much any kind of compute I needed, it was like possible with that, or with like little adjustments to the shaders.
Yeah,
so it's very well designed.
Yes, and Kyle has even more ideas now, because of course he has years of experience with that, and if he has the time to rebuild this a little bit, he has even better ways to modularize it, and also the shader composition technology of Stride gives new options to do that, because everything is typed and generic, and yeah, if you connect this shader graph, you generate a new shader and it's all compiled and everything. So yeah, that's quite exciting.